The Brooksville Horror. The night fell heavy over the town of Brooksville, its streets cloaked in the oppressive stillness of an impending storm. The sky rumbled with a distant thunder, and the air carried a scent of decay that no one could quite place. It was as if death itself had taken a breath, waiting to exhale. Sarah Lockwood, closing her shop for the night, glanced up at the darkening sky. A chill ran down her spine, and she quickened her pace, keys jingling nervously in her hand. As she turned the corner towards her home, she heard it. A low, wet shuffling sound. She paused, listening. It was not the rustle of leaves or the scampering of a stray cat, but something far more sinister. Out of the shadows emerged the first of them. Its skin hung in tatters, a grotesque tapestry of rotting flesh and exposed bone. The corpse's eyes were sunken pits, black and hollow, and its jaw hung at an unnatural angle, teeth slick with a viscous, dark fluid. Each step it took was accompanied by a sickening squelch, as if its feet were pulling free from a bog with every movement. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She took a step back, but more of them emerged, a legion of the damned. The sound was unbearable, the squelching of decomposing flesh, the crackle of brittle bones shifting under decayed skin, and a horrid gurgling that seemed to emanate from deep within their chests. It was as if the air itself was tainted with the sound of death. The corpses moved with a jerky, unsettling rhythm, their limbs twitching unnaturally. One dragged what was left of its foot, the flesh stripped away to reveal gleaming white bone that scraped against the pavement with a nauseating screech. Another had a gaping wound in its side, from which a thick, dark liquid oozed, leaving a trail of putrescence in its wake. Sarah turned and ran, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear them behind her, their grotesque symphony filling the night. As she sprinted through the streets, the town began to stir. Windows creaked open, and faces appeared, pale and wide-eyed with horror. The smell hit them first, a rancid wave of decay that turned stomachs and brought bile to throats. From every corner of Brooksville, the dead emerged. They clawed their way from graves, from the murky depths of the river, from crumbling mausoleums and morgues. The sounds they made were a cacophony of nightmares, the sloughing of skin, the creak of decayed joints, the occasional, chilling moan that echoed through the streets like a death knell. Panic spread like wildfire. People fled their homes, the town's once quiet streets now alive with the chaos of survival. But the dead were relentless. They moved with an unholy persistence, their grotesque forms shuffling and lurching forward, drawn to the living like moths to a flame. Sarah reached the town square, her legs burning with the effort of running. She stumbled, falling to her knees. Around her, the corpses closed in, their grotesque faces twisted in a parody of hunger. She could see every detail, the maggots writhing in empty eye sockets, the blackened, shriveled tongues that lolled from broken mouths, the way their skin hung loose in some places and stretched tight over bones in others. The sound was unbearable now, a hideous orchestra of death. The wet, sucking noises of their movements, the crackle of bones, the low, guttural moans that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Sarah's scream joined the chorus, a final, desperate cry swallowed by the night as the dead descended upon her. Brooksville was lost, engulfed by the nightmare that had risen from its soil. The dead roamed its streets, their grotesque forms a testament to the horror unleashed upon the unsuspecting town. And the night carried on, heavy with the sounds of death, as the storm finally broke and the heavens wept for the lost. As the storm raged on, those who had barricaded themselves inside their homes were not spared. The dead were relentless, their decaying hands scratching and pounding on doors and windows. Each impact was accompanied by the grotesque sound of skin sloughing off and bones grinding. The more they pressed, the more their bodies fell apart, leaving putrid chunks of flesh and splintered bones scattered on the doorsteps and windowsills. Inside a small, dimly lit house, John and Mary Spencer huddled together with their 2 young children. The pounding on their door grew louder, more desperate. John's eyes were wide with fear, his hands shaking as he clutched a baseball bat, his only weapon. Mary's face was pale, her arms wrapped protectively around their children. "Daddy, what is that?" whispered their daughter, her voice trembling. It's nothing, sweetheart," John lied, his voice cracking. "Just stay close to Mommy." The door began to give way under the relentless assault. With a final, bone-chilling crash, it splintered open, and the corpses surged inside. The stench was overwhelming, a suffocating wave of rot and decay that made the children gag and cry. John swung the bat wildly, each impact producing a sickening crunch as it connected with decomposing flesh and brittle bone. But it was futile. For every corpse he struck down, 2 more seemed to take its place, their grotesque forms pressing forward with an insatiable hunger. Mary screamed as the dead reached her, their cold, clammy hands clawing at her clothes and flesh. She fought desperately, but there was no escape. The children's cries were drowned out by the cacophony of death, their small bodies enveloped by the writhing mass of decay. Across town, in the old church, Father Thomas knelt at the altar, praying fervently for salvation. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, making the carved faces of saints and angels seem to writhe and twist in agony. The heavy wooden doors of the church shuddered under the assault of the dead, the sound reverberating through the hallowed halls. "Lord, protect us in our time of need," Father Thomas whispered, his voice shaking. "Deliver us from this evil." But the doors could not hold. With a final, deafening crash, they burst open, and the corpses flooded into the sacred space. Their presence was an abomination, a defilement of all that was holy. They moved with a grotesque mockery of life, their rotting bodies jerking and twitching as they advanced. Father Thomas stood his ground, holding up a crucifix as if it could ward off the encroaching horror. "In the name of God, I command you to leave this place," he shouted. The dead did not heed his words. They swarmed around him, their skeletal hands reaching out, their eyes empty voids that reflected nothing but darkness. Father Thomas's voice faltered, his faith wavering in the face of such unimaginable terror. The last thing he felt was the cold, slimy touch of death as it claimed him. By dawn, Brooksville was silent. The storm had passed, leaving the town drenched and battered. The streets were littered with the remains of the dead, their bodies lying where they had fallen, a grim testament to the night's horrors. In the town square, Sarah's body lay where it had fallen, surrounded by the remains of the corpses that had claimed her. Her eyes were open, staring sightlessly at the sky, her face a mask of terror. Around her, the other victims lay in twisted, grotesque poses, their final moments frozen in time. Brooksville had become a tomb, a place where the dead outnumbered the living. And as the sun rose, casting its light over the devastated town, it revealed the true extent of the horror that had been unleashed. Thank you for watching. Please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and smash the bell icon for more.